Today we're diving into a pretty incredible story of political change, one that happens so fast it's almost hard to believe. We're talking about how a single decision about the internet ended up sparking a real-world revolution in Nepal.
So let me just ask you this. How fast can a country's entire government actually fall apart? A year? Maybe a month? A week?
Well, in Nepal, back in September of 2025, it took all of 5 days. And the trigger, it wasn't some kind of military coup or a huge economic crash. Nope. It was a ban on social media. Let's get into how this all went down.
All right, first up, we're going to look at the most intense part of this whole thing, a 3-day period that saw an unbelievable escalation on the streets of Kathmandu. What's just mind-blowing here is the speed. I mean, look at this. On September 4th, the government pulls the plug on 26 social media platforms. Just 4 days later, thousands of young people pour into the streets, and they're met with force. And then, the very next day, Parliament is on fire and the Prime Minister is out of a job. It's an absolutely stunningly fast collapse.
And let's be really clear here, this was not some peaceful transition of power. The confrontations were incredibly violent. Police were using everything, tear gas, water cannons, and, tragically, they even used live bullets.
The human cost of just those few days was, well, it was devastating. The final death toll climbed to 72 people.
And on top of that, more than 2,100 others were injured. That number alone just gives you a sense of the brutal scale of the violence that really erupted here.
So, what happens when the dust settles? What came out of all that fire and ash? Well, that brings us to the aftermath, which saw a whole new government and a pretty historic appointment.
The result was a complete 180. I mean, look at this. Before the protests, you've got Prime Minister Oli, you've got the social media ban, and the government's in place. After, the Prime Minister is gone, the ban is gone, and a new interim leader, Sushila Karki, is in charge. It was a total political reset.
And her appointment. Wow. This was a huge deal for the country. In the middle of all this chaos, Sushila Karki became Nepal's first ever female prime minister.
So the new leadership, they knew they had to act fast to try and put out the fire, right? They immediately promised to investigate the police brutality, pay compensation to the families who lost loved ones, cover medical bills for the injured, and, this is the big one, hold brand new elections in March of 2026.
But you gotta ask, was this massive explosion of anger really just about not being able to use Facebook? Of course not. You and I both know there was something much deeper going on. Let's look past the ban at the major cracks that were already there in Nepalese society. People started calling it the Gen Z protest, almost immediately. And that name really gets to the heart of it, you know? This was a movement driven by young people, by students, who felt that this ban wasn't just about apps. It was a direct attack on their voice.
And here's probably the most important thing to understand. The social media ban was the spark, for sure, but the real fuel for this fire had been piling up for years. We're talking about massive government corruption, nepotism, no good jobs for young people, and just a complete and total loss of trust in every public institution. The ban was just the final straw that broke the camel's back.
Okay, so where does all this leave Nepal? The future is, well, it's anything but certain. Let's take a look at how the world reacted and the enormous challenges the new government is now facing.
Of course, the rest of the world was watching all of this go down, and they were not quiet about it. Human Rights Watch was one of the first to come out and condemn what they called the use of lethal force and demanded a real, transparent investigation.
And it wasn't just human rights groups. The United Nations itself jumped in, expressing official shock at the level of violence and pushing the new government hard to make sure there was going to be some real accountability.
And the road ahead for them is just incredibly tough. Think about it. This interim government has to somehow rebuild public trust from scratch, manage this super fragile political transition, and actually deliver on all those promises of justice, all while trying to organize a credible election. It's a monumental task. And that really leaves us with the big unanswered question for Nepal's future, doesn't it? With those elections coming up, is it even possible for any new government to heal a nation that's been so deeply divided and actually deliver the justice that people literally fought and died for?